we would have dealt with.
Hello and welcome. I'm Asuma Katauka and you're watching the World Report on News 6 World. Let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. According to the Chinese Foreign Ministry, China will grant visa-free entry to Canadian and British nationals starting tomorrow till the end of this year, leaving the United States as the only Five Eyes country without the visa-free access. The policy takes effect as China marks the start of the Lunar New Year. According to the Chinese Foreign Ministry and the U.S. State Department, Japan also pledged $17.8 million to NATO for support to Ukraine, while Japanese Foreign Minister and U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio agreed in Munich to accelerate coordination for Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi's planned March visit to Washington. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says that any deal between the United States and Iran must involve the removal of all enriched uranium from Iran, as well as Tehran's ability to enrich more. His comments come as Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi heads to Switzerland for the second round of renewed nuclear talks. US President Donald Trump said Board of Peace member states will announce at an upcoming meeting on Thursday a pledge of more than $5 billion for reconstruction and humanitarian efforts in Gaza. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi has published a list of over 300 prominent figures mentioned in the files of U.S. financier Jeffrey Epstein. The letter lists all former and current officials or politically significant figures whose names have been mentioned at least once. The Russian embassy in Ottawa rejects accusations by the Canadian authorities in connection with statements by European countries about the poisoning of blogger and longtime Putin critic Alexei Navalny, who was listed as a terrorist and extremist in Russia. Nepali candidates launched their campaigns for next month's parliamentary elections, the first since deadly anti-corruption protests toppled the previous government in 2025. Interim Prime Minister Sushila Kargi says the election will draw the future of the country. A global artificial intelligence summit kicks off in New Delhi with big issues from job disruption to child safety. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate the 5-day AI Summit Impact Summit, which aims to declare a shared roadmap for global AI governance and collaboration. Now for this hour, we start with Iran. According to an exclusive report by CBS News, U.S. President Donald Trump has told Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu last year that he would support Israeli strikes on Iran's ballistic missile program if nuclear talks between the U.S. and Iran failed. These discussions, confirmed by sources, have sparked internal deliberations within the U.S. national security establishment regarding how America could assist Israel if such an action is carried out. Options being considered include providing aerial refueling for Israeli aircraft and securing overflight permissions from neighboring countries. However, it remains unclear whether nations such as Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE would permit their airspace to be used for these operations, with all three publicly stating their opposition to supporting such strikes. Meanwhile, tensions surrounding Iran's missile program continue to escalate, raising concerns about the possibility of military action. This situation highlights the growing complexity of the U.S.-Israel relationship in the Middle East as both countries navigate the challenges posed by Iran's missile capabilities and nuclear ambitions. Furthermore, these developments occur amidst heightened geopolitical tensions in the region, with the international community closely monitoring any signs of military escalation. Now we welcome Mr. Professor Rohan Gunratna. He's an international affairs expert. Joins us live from Singapore. Thank you very much, Professor Gunratna, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, as we see reports suggesting that U.S. is open to striking Iran, what are we to expect of the coordination that could happen between Israel and U.S.? Do you think U.S. will have to talk to the countries like Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar to let them use their airspace, etc.?
Asuma, as you have very rightly said, this is a great challenge. That is, the United States have moved a aircraft carrier, and they are moving a second aircraft carrier, and they have inducted so much of capabilities and troops to countries around Iran with the purpose of conducting a regime change in Iran. And the last 24 hours, if you look at the statements, the Americans are moving in that direction because they believe that the talks between the United States and Iran will not be successful. But certainly the immediate neighbors of Iran, they're very concerned, very worried, because Iran will use their missile capabilities to strike those Arab countries in the event their airspace and their military bases are used by the United States to attack Iran. So at this point, what is very clear is that the US is determined to go ahead with a strike, and they are also discussing with Israel to mount an attack where Israel itself will participate in such an operation. It is because Iran has a ballistic missile program, a cruise missile program, and a nuclear program that threatens not only the Arab countries, but also the wider world. So at this point, if Iran is not going to comply with restricting those programs, dismantling those programs, certainly we can expect in the coming month or so for there to be a very harsh response against Iran for the purpose of changing the regime in Tehran.
Yes. And what could be the risk in allowing their airspace to be used? Wouldn't it escalate the situation and drag these countries into this spat?
Yes, certainly Iran has threatened to attack Jordan, which is now hosting most of the American assets in their airbase. Iran has also threatened to attack Saudi Arabia, UAE, and other countries. In the past, of course, Iran attacked Qatar because the US has very significant capabilities in Qatar. So those countries are now persuading the United States to act with caution or not to attack Iran. But what is clear is that Iran cannot be trusted. That is, the Ayatollah regime has always said something and done something. In fact, they were very close to producing a functional nuclear weapons. At the time, the United States attacked their nuclear sites. So what is so important is for the world to act, because if Iran develops a nuclear capability, then of course the Middle East will change, and many of those countries in the region will also develop nuclear weapons, and it will become a very unsafe region. Middle East is the heartland of the world, and that region will become very unstable, and that will affect the entire world.
Yes, indeed, it will affect the entire world. And how do you think, what would be the long-term effects? Do you think Iran will see, if this, of course, this regime change doesn't occur and this regime stays in place, or someone similar in mindset comes into this position, then how do you think that will unfold or change the regional politics?
If there is no regime change in Iran, Iran will develop eventually a nuclear capability. Second, it will build more missiles and more cruise missiles and ballistic missiles to strike neighbors and also beyond. Third is, of course, Iran will continue to fund its proxies like Hashd-Shab in Iraq, Lebanese Hezbollah, Ansarullah in Yemen, and so many other terrorist proxies. And also, Iran will very violently suppress the protesters. You can see in the last 48 hours. So many protests are taking place against Iran, but they are mostly overseas in Germany, in France, and in other countries. So it is so important for the world to focus on changing the regime in Iran for greater stability and security of the Iranian people, of the Middle East, and the world at large.
Thank you for highlighting that, Professor Gunratna. Please stay with us as we come back to you for a later discussion as well. Now, moving on to Turkey, Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has postponed his visit to the United Arab Emirates after announcing that Emirati leader Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan is experiencing a health problem. Erdogan has expressed his sadness over the situation during a phone call with Al Nahyan, wishing him a speedy recovery. The Turkish presidency later deleted the message, though it had already been picked up by the local media. Emirati officials have not commented on the health of this Mr. Al Nahyan, and photos released by Al Nahyan's team show him appearing healthy and smiling with Qatar's Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. The visit's new date remains unconfirmed. Now we move on to Lebanon. Lebanon says an Israeli strike near the Syrian border in the country's east has killed 4 people, marking a fresh escalation despite a ceasefire agreed late last year. Lebanese state media has reported that an Israeli drone targeted a car in the Majdal Anjar area with 4 bodies found inside the vehicle. The health ministry later confirmed the death toll. The Israeli military said it had struck operatives from Palestinian militant group Islamic Jihad, calling them terrorists operating in eastern Lebanon. This appears to be the first strike Israel has publicly claimed in Lebanon against Islamic Jihad since the November 2024 truce aimed at ending more than a year of hostilities with Hezbollah. Despite that truce, Israel has continued to regular strike, and more than 370 people have been killed in Lebanon since the ceasefire, according to official figures. Now we welcome back Professor Rohan Gunratna. He's an international affairs expert, joins us live from Singapore. Thank you very much, Professor, for staying with us. Now, looking at these latest strikes in Lebanon, how effective is Israeli strikes have been in, de-escalating or demoting the power of Iran's proxies in Lebanon?
Asuma, as you very rightly said, the vehicle was transporting terrorists that belong to the Islamic Jihad. What I mean by the Islamic Jihad is a group called the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. And the Palestinian Islamic Jihad is a terrorist group that works with Hamas to mount attacks. So PIJ did participate with Hamas and other terrorist groups to do the October 2023 attack. And today what we are witnessing is that Israel has developed a policy to target any terrorist group that is having a reach to strike Israel. It's a preemptive mindset. So in many ways, what Israel has done is good for its security. And it also sends a message that no country should harbor terrorists. So it's a very clear message to the Lebanese government: don't allow Palestinian Islamic Jihad, or do not allow Lebanese Hezbollah, do not allow Jamaat-e-Islami and other terrorist groups to operate in your territory. If you do that, we will mount operations in your country, because you yourself, you cannot control the terrorist presence in your country. So I think that this attack is a very good example for other countries. Also, do not harbor terrorists on your soil, because you are prompting another country, a foreign country, to unilaterally act against those terrorist entities. But certainly it has invited a lot of criticism against Israel. But I believe in this day and age, to protect your own countries, your own civilian populations, your own interests, you have to take action against terrorist groups wherever they are, preemptively.
And thank you for highlighting that. And Professor, as we discussed previously too, that Lebanese army was supposed to disarm other fractions that are other than Lebanese army itself, and have only Lebanese army legally and rightfully hold weapons and within Lebanon, but they were supposed to get it done before this year, but it hasn't. So the effectiveness and the goal that was set, what do you think was what do you think led to this situation where they haven't achieved any, not even the ceasefire, not even this disarmament, and now this situation is continuing to deteriorate?
Lebanese military needs to be strengthened. As you mentioned very clearly, the Lebanese military has not met with the anticipated goals. They promised the Americans and they promised the Israelis and they promised the Europeans that they will dismantle the Lebanese Hezbollah operating on their soil. But they are not able to do that because Hezbollah is a very strong terrorist group that has been in Lebanon for a very long time. But I believe that in the coming months, coming years, the Lebanese army will play a very decisive role because the Americans are supporting them, other governments are supporting them, and eventually the Lebanese military, which is the standing army of Lebanon, will be able to take control of their own country and will be able to get rid of those terrorist entities on their soil.
Thank you very much, Professor Gunratna, for sharing that insight with us. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now, moving on, U.S. Senator Marco Rubio is in Budapest, meeting Prime Minister Viktor Orban just days before Hungary heads to the polls. The visit highlights growing ties between American conservatives and Europe's nationalist leaders. U.S. President Donald Trump has repeatedly voiced support for right-wing candidates abroad, praising Orban's hardline approach. Critics say the timing risks signaling U.S. involvement in domestic politics, while allies call it a show of shared values, with Hungary voters preparing to decide. The meeting is drawing close international attention, with the election nearing. The outcome could shape Hungary's direction and influence broader debates over democracy, nationalism, and foreign alliances across Europe and the United States. Now we welcome back Professor Gunratna. He joins us live from Singapore. Thank you very much, Professor, for staying with us. Looking back in history, is this very normal or usual that American presidents endorse or support foreign leaders so openly? This move and timing, can it be interpreted as an endorsement?
President Trump is a very different leader. He is described as a mercurial president. He does what he likes and what he wants to. And of course, he's supporting all the right-wing parties in Europe and elsewhere. So he is currently doing that because he wants the right-wing parties to win, because he sees that the left-wing parties are weak. He believes that Western civilization has suffered because of these left-wing ideologies. So what he's doing is unusual, but it is something that other leaders will also do because they want, other leaders who are right-wing want right-wing parties to come to power and for Western hemisphere to be dominated by those right-wing leaders and right-wing parties. So that is the global trend at this point.
Right, and how do you think, how will it affect US's international relations with these countries moving forward? Do you think it will make it worse or better with other countries who might not be Christian or right-wing in Europe?
In this specific case, we have seen that Oban is not very popular and he may lose this election. So there is some unhappiness about US uh, representative, Trump's representative meeting with him in the lead up to the election. But I want to share with you that this is the personal wish of President Trump. It should not be interpreted as action by the United States government. It's more a political leader making a decision to support another political leader who is right wing.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for sharing that. With that, I'd like to thank Professor Gunratna for joining us and sharing that insight with us on NewsX World. Thank you very much. Now we move on to Nepal. Campaigning has officially begun in Nepal ahead of next month's parliamentary elections, the first since deadly anti-corruption protests toppled the previous government last year. Interim Prime Minister Sushila Karki has said the vote would shape the country's future as parties launched 2 weeks of intensive campaigning ahead of the March 5th poll. The youth-led uprising in September was sparked by a brief social media ban, but quickly grew into wider anger over economic stagnation and an aging political elite. 77 people were killed in 2 days of violence, the worst since Nepal's civil war ended in 2006. And veteran leader KP Sharma Oli was ousted. This election will see a sharp generational contest with rapper turned mayor Balendra Shah taking on Oli in a key race, as newer parties and younger candidates promise change. Nearly 19 million voters are registered with heavy security deployed as Nepal seeks a way out of its political crisis. Now we welcome retired Major General A.K. Siwachi. He's a geostrategic expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Major General, for joining us and staying with us. Now, looking at Nepal, ever since KP Sharma Oli was ousted last year, although he's running again, how is his popularity like right now, and what more can you share about Nepal with us today?
Asuma, as far as Nepal is concerned, the economic condition of Nepal is extremely bad. Now, what has happened is in 2008, the monarchy was thrown out and then democracy came in. But after that, the country economy has come down rather than progressing. And one after the other parties have come, whether it is a Nepal Congress or the Communists, they have not able to govern the country well. There is high corruption, there is inflation of almost double figure, the economic stagnation, and the youth is totally jobless. So that is the reason as to why you find this unrest took place in September last year, and people have come to the street. This is truly a Gen Z campaign where the young youth have come out and they realized it that the politicians have failed and they have not able to give them a better governance. And that is the time when the complete law and order of Nepal was disrupted, and there were also people saying that monarchy must come back. But all said and done, that is the time when Sushila Karki, who earlier was Chief Justice of Nepal Supreme Court, was made as interim Prime Minister, and now the elections are going to take place in coming March. Now, two, three things stand out. Now, as far as these elections are concerned, which are coming, you find it will be youth versus old people, and you find that a lot of youth have come. Say about the population of Nepal is about 2.9 to 3 crore, and there are new voters, almost 8 lakh out of about 1.9 crore voters. So you find that even the candidates which have been selected by number of parties are 30 to 40% young. So therefore, they are now trying to say that the young generation must come in politics. The old politicians have failed them completely. They have not able to govern, and especially like KP Sharma Oli and all, his government was uprooted by the Gen Z movement. So I suppose the whole situation has changed. Now let's see how things fan out. That as on today in Nepal, they want a change. They want the youth to come. They are totally frustrated by the politics of Nepal so far.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that deep insight. And Major General, now, Interim Prime Minister Sushila Karki, how has she kept the calm in Nepal? Is she doing a good job? And also, is she also running for this upcoming elections?
I don't think she is running for this election, but she did a good job, no doubt about it. The time when she was made as an interim prime minister, the law and order, the situation was extremely bad in Nepal. The youth were on the street, they were people who were ransacking the shops, and the law and order was extremely bad. And that is the time when Sushila Karki was made as interim prime minister, and she was the one which was basically accepted by everyone. The youth also had a very good opinion about her, and that is how she will manage to control the situation. I suppose after September till today, the situation is far better than what it was earlier, and she has given a confidence to the people of Nepal, and especially the youth, that the election will be done in a very fair, objective, and transparent manner, and the whosoever gets elected will come. To me, it looks like that there is a transformation which is taking place in Nepal. That the old politicians are no more required. That's what it is now. People are feeling it, and the youth must come. The youth who are well educated and who can contribute, like this Balan Brinder Shah, who's popularly known as Balan, who's now earlier was a rapper, now a mayor. He's fighting election against KP Sharma only. So there is a shift from old type of politics where the politicians have completely failed to govern Nepal to a youth, to young. People are saying our aspirations are that there should be no corruption, the inflation must be controlled, and also employment. They want job, and that is the biggest problem in Nepal. Remember, Nepal biggest export industry, or you can say industry, is tourism. The tourism has taken a hit because there is a lot of corruption which has taken place. Roads are in extremely bad. Infrastructure is gone from bad to worse. So I suppose this election will throw a new type of government which will be more dominated by youth, and there will be a change. And I can conclude by saying Sushila Kaki, during this period from September to till today, I suppose she has governed by and large very good, and she able to control the violence, and she has given a confidence to the people of Nepal that the election which will be held in March will be fair, free, and transparent.
And last but not least, how do you think the election results will be affecting its relations with India? Is it in a good condition as compared to the similar challenging situation or the country faced, or in a situation like Bangladesh?
As far as Nepal is concerned, remember that Nepal is once upon a time a Hindu state. The majority population of Nepal is Hindus, and there are about 5% even the Muslims are there. It is a buffer state between India and China. It plays a major role, and India will like to have a government which is a pro-India and which is work for the people of Nepal. So we are very open-minded. As in India, they feel that a government which is elected by the people of Nepal should come, and India will like to have a good relation with the with whichever government is elected there. Exactly like what has happened in Bangladesh, like what you were saying is that now Bangladesh National Party has achieved the majority, almost 2/3 of the majority, and Tariq Rahman is likely to be sworn as the Prime Minister on 17th. So India will like to maintain very good relation with the new government headed by Tariq Rahman, and same way in Nepal, whichever government come into power, India will be thinking in a very positive manner, have a very good relation with that, because both the countries stand to gain. Now, if you talk about Bangladesh, remember Bangladesh again, they are totally dependent on India. The water, then fuel, then the basically food, and also the raw material from textile goes from India, and that's how dependency of Bangladesh is almost 60%, and they are called India locked country because 95% they are surrounded by India. At the same time, Nepal also. Remember, Nepal economy is also dependent on India. There is a saying, "Beti ka rishta hai," and why? Because the relationship are deep rooted, they are religious, they are culture, and they are historical. The people of Nepal can work in India. There are about 40 to 50,000 soldiers which are there in Indian army. So Nepal is very close to India, and India will like a government which is elected by the people of Nepal, which should be a stable government and which must work for the good of people of Nepal. And that is what is the requirement. And we will like to have a stable government there because that suits us. And since it is a buffer state between Nepal is a buffer state between India and China, we will like it that they should be having a good relation, especially with India.
Thank you very much. With that, I would like to thank Major General A.K. Sivachi for joining us and sharing that insight with us. Now we move on to Europe. Pope Leo has made his first pastoral visit to a Roman parish today, celebrating Mass at Santa Maria Regina Pacis in Ostia Lido. During the visit, he has emphasized the importance of coherence between faith and life and urged Catholics to oppose violence and injustice with the disarming strength of meekness. The Pope greeted children, young people, and the elderly, the sick, and volunteers, sharing a message about the role of God's law in guiding people to freedom. Furthermore, Pope Leo encouraged the parish to spread respect, harmony, and to invest in the education of children and young people. His visit underscored the need for a stronger commitment to peace, humility, and the cultivation of God's message in everyday life. That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.